Good morning. Nice to be with you today. It's Saturday morning. Haven't I done well getting myself going in the morning rather than the afternoon or evening? And it's another beautiful day, though it's a bit cooler than yesterday. It wasn't Friday, such a lovely warm day. I hope you are well, and I trust that this service will connect you with our church community no matter where you are. It's such an important thing to feel part of something and part of our regular group. So I trust that this will just make you feel part of Gordon-Pymble Uniting Church today. Our theme today is with friends like these, and it's reflecting on the book of Job, which is another part of the wisdom tradition that we've been speaking of. Let's gather together in worship, and this call to worship is from the International Prayer of Peace service, which was held during the week. May we be led from darkness to light, from falsehood to truth. May we be led from despair to hope, from fear to trust. May we be led from hate to love, from war to peace. And let peace fill our heart, our world, and our universe. Amen. Let us continue with an opening prayer. This one, I think, from the Iona group. God the Maker, Maker of colour, sound, texture, quietness, and the restless beauty in all living things, we bless you. God the Maker, Maker of granite and mustard seed, of grey cloud and starlight, of volcano and heartbeat, we bless you. God the Maker, Maker of all that is unseen, of all that ever was, of all the words, of all that words can never capture, we bless you. God our Maker, we, the children of your love, the creatures of your kindness, the guardians of your creation, we bless you. We bless you for your making, your trusting, your loving, and your never-ending goodness. Amen. Well, it's clear I'm at the Pymble Church today, and we've just heard the rumble of a truck go by, but I trust that that won't be too disruptive throughout the service. Well, welcome once again. It's good to be with you, and as I say, I hope everyone is managing through these difficult times of COVID and of lockdown, and perhaps our hearts are lifted just a little with the news of increasing rates of vaccination and the promise of some returning towards normal. As we think about that, of course, and as I've mentioned in the lockdown lowdown, churches are just one of many groups that are asking what will it mean for them, how will the vaccinations work, and so on. I just want to say that Church Council is encouraging everyone to be vaccinated. That's an important statement to make, I think, from churches. There are some churches that are wanting to claim exemptions. I think it's important that we recognise that vaccination is the way that our community is able to be together. And so it's not so much, it's not only something for our own safety, it is something for the safety of others, and therefore it is a question of love, how we think about others, how we think about our neighbour. So I know many people have been vaccinated, perhaps most people in our community double vaccinated. I expect that we will be following the government's advice when it comes. I assume that will be that only double vaccinated people will be allowed in worship, but we will be exploring all our options. But please speak to me if you have any concerns about this. We received a little bit of sad news during the week that our dear friend Duncan, who was working with us a year or two ago, has suffered a heart attack and is in Canberra Hospital. Now, he emailed me, which I think was a good sign that he's not too bad, and it was very short, but he did just want to let us know, which is kind of him, and that he said that he didn't expect to be too long before he is home. So that is good news. He was his normal humorous self, but do keep Duncan in your prayers. It's the season for holidays. We know that Nicola had a week off recently. This week it'll be opportunity for myself and also for Leslie. She'll also be on leave. And so I'll be off from after morning tea, perhaps, on Sunday. And I'll be off the following Sunday, so I won't be doing the service. Lloyd is promising us something creative and interesting, and as such we won't have Holy Communion next Sunday. We'll have it the following week when I return on the 10th of October. And just a reminder to look into and have a good read of the Lockdown Lowdown newsletter for all information. And there's very interesting information about encouragement for people to get together for picnics for 5. I think that's a great idea. We don't want to organise that too much as a church. We don't want to say a venue where people should, a single venue and time, because that would be like the church organising something for a much larger group. But we are encouraging individuals to gather together, picnic together as an opportunity to begin to form again and to meet in person. And in the lowdown there are also appreciative messages from Margaret Jerd College and from Lifeline regarding the support we've been able to give both of those groups. So thank you to all of those who have contributed with those appeals, and please continue to give as you're able. Well, our reading today comes from Job chapter 11. I'm speaking from Job because it's another in the wisdom tradition that we've been exploring over these last couple of weeks. And Job 11, 1-16 is one of the speeches by one of Job's so-called friends. And I hope I'll be able to explain that a little bit more in the service itself. But Job 11, 1-16. Then Zophar, the Naamathite, answered, "Should a multitude of words go unanswered? And should one full of talk be vindicated? Should your babble put others to silence? And when you mock, shall no one shame you? For you say," he's speaking to Job, "my conduct is pure, and I am clean in God's sight. But oh, that God would speak and open his lips to you, and that he would tell you the secrets of wisdom. For wisdom is many-sided. Know then that God exacts of you less than your guilt deserves. Can you find out the deep things of God? Can you find out the limit of the Almighty? It is higher than heaven. What can you do? It deeper than Sheol. What can you know? Its measure is longer than the earth and broader than the sea. If he passes through and imprisons and assembles for judgment, who can hinder him? For he knows those who are worthless. When he sees iniquity, will he not consider it? But a stupid person will get understanding when a wild ass is born human. If you direct your heart rightly, you will stretch out your hands towards him. If iniquity is in your hand, put it away, and do not let wickedness reside in your tents. Surely then you will lift up your face without blemish. You will be secure and will not fear. You will forget your misery. You will remember it as waters that have passed away. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, today we will conclude our venture into the wisdom tradition by exploring the central meaning of the book of Job. Far from being a simple response to the problem of suffering, the sort of answer we'd all love to have, the book of Job is really a complex rebuttal of the simplicity of the conventional wisdom of Proverbs, and a challenge to the dominant theology of the Hebrew Scriptures, Yes, our Bible contains disagreement and debate. For most of us, this is what we know about the book of Job. In heaven, God is bragging about how good a person Job is. And the Satan, not so much the devil as we think, but more an ancient accuser character, the accuser says to God, "That's only because you treated him so well and he's had such a cushy life. Take away his comforts and he will curse you." And so God allows the Satan to treat Job dreadfully by robbing him of his family, wealth and health. Then his friends come and they have a long chat, but never does Job curse God for his woes. In the end, God reveals himself to Job in a whirlwind. Job gets well and becomes even wealthier than he was before, and basically lives happily ever after. And the purpose of the book in this type of understanding is to encourage us to stay strong in suffering, to be, as the saying goes, as patient as Job. The problem with this type of understanding is that it's not entirely accurate. Job does indeed lose his cool with God. And this type of interpretation doesn't do justice to the vast majority of the book. You see, there are 2 brief chapters of prose at the beginning that sets up the storyline, and 1 at the end to bring it to a conclusion. But 39 of the 42 chapters of this book contain poetic speeches made by Job's 3 friends, and also it includes Job's responses. Surely the meaning of the book must be found in the majority of its contents, not just in the easy-to-digest introduction and conclusion. As we delve into the speeches, we see that the 3 friends are basically saying the same thing. They suggest that Job must have sinned badly to have suffered such a calamity in his life, and that if he would just acknowledge that sin and repent of his wrongdoing, then God would restore him. Job must have thought, with friends like these, who needs enemies? Job, however, is not willing to say that he has sinned in this way. He has done nothing which deserves such punishment by God. And as readers, we know that's true from the first 2 chapters. Job will not let go of his integrity. That is, he will not admit to sin that he has not committed. What we need to understand in these 39 chapters of speeches is that the friends are simply outlining the standard wisdom of the day. They represent the conventional religious views on suffering, the sort of views that we read in Proverbs. For example, we read, "The house of the wicked is destroyed, but the tent of the upright flourishes. The perverse get what they deserve, and the good what their deeds deserve." Job's house was destroyed, so his friends logically conclude that he must be wicked and perverse. This cause and effect, or reward and punishment approach to life, dominates the Hebrew scriptures. Scholars believe it especially developed in exile, as the people reflected on how, as God's chosen people, they could be deported from their land and taken away from their temple and removed from all that made them Israel. And so they edited their books accordingly. A layer, if you like, of many of the Old Testament books. And if I could remember how to pronounce it, I'm going to give it a go. There's the Deuteronomistic historian, which is said to sort of have his editorial hand over books from about Deuteronomy right through Judges, King, Samuel, and so on. And so, as such, it became the normal way of making sense of suffering. We are suffering because we have done something wrong. But somewhere in the history of Israel, someone was bold enough to question this way of thinking. Someone realised that while this interpretation was part of sacred teaching and probably had a lot to say for it, it didn't ring true to every circumstance. And so the book of Job offers an alternate voice. A folklore type story of a righteous man suffering incredible loss is used to bookend or top and tail a sharp critique of the conventional wisdom of suffering. In providing this alternate view, the author of Job offers sufferers everywhere a little less guilt about their situation and a little bit more hope in their relationship with God. So I hope what I've said is clear there. The idea is that in this back and forth between Job's friends and Job, we're seeing the critique itself of the standard orthodox line. Last week in the Lockdown Lowdown, I used a quote from a textbook from college to reflect on Bishop John Spong's life. I do think it was quite apt for Spong, but I'd like to expand that quote more now as we reflect increasingly on Job. This is from a writer called Bernard Anderson. The author of Job portrays these three friends in such a manner that they are more to be pitied than Job, the sufferer. Although they are sincere in their stand, and at times speak of the meaning of the faith in eloquent language, they cling desperately to their orthodoxy and sense in Job's dangerous words a threat to their own security. Orthodoxy has invariably feared the heretic, as the history of Western civilization amply shows. In a truly prophetic spirit, the author of Job championed the creative power of heresy, for faith is often most vigorous when it dares to break with ideological dogma. Yes, breaking even with religion, and enter into uncharted areas. The three friends were too smug in their orthodoxy, too sure of the answers to life's enigmas, too confident that God was bound by their logic. In the face of opposition, they could only answer with cliches. End of quote. We might just note here too that Jesus continues in the vein of Job by critiquing orthodoxy, amplifying hidden themes within the Jewish scriptures, and ensuring that faith always stays true to our lived experience. So the orthodox outlook, the conventional wisdom, receives a harsh critique. And yet it is not removed from the scriptures. Both Proverbs and Job remain within our scriptural canon, calling us to wrestle with the wisdom of both. For it is true that living in an immoral and unethical way will often lead to ruin, as Proverbs repeatedly says. But the reverse doesn't necessarily follow. Just because some ruin has befallen you, it doesn't mean that you are living an immoral or unethical life. Once again, we see that as we wrestle with deep human questions, our scriptures are more a deep well from which we draw sustenance than a simplistic answer book. There is nothing much worse than a cliche when you are in real pain. So if we are with people who are suffering, forget the platitudes, forget the folksy little sayings that attribute tragedy to God's greater plan or desire. Sadly, I have often heard, after especially the death of a child, such statements like, God must have required another angel in heaven, or it's all part of God's mysterious plan that we can't understand now, but we'll understand later. I think these are ghastly sayings, and really they channel the spirit of Job's friends rather than offering any true comfort. But there is something positive we can learn from Job's friends, and which is born of true wisdom in these sort of situations when we're trying to support people going through real tragedy. In the first instance, when they hear about Job, we are told the friends go to comfort and console him. They mourn with him by adopting the cultural practice of tearing their clothes and throwing dust upon their heads. I'm not quite sure what the modern equivalent is, but perhaps it's taking around a casserole or something like that. But then, Job's 3 friends sit in silence with Job for 7 full days, sharing a quiet solidarity when no words could help. Sometimes silence is the best that we can offer. Some of you will have heard this story, but in my first placement at Griffith, I was called late one night to the hospital across the road. A newly married couple that I didn't know had just delivered a stillborn child. Everything had been fine for them until right at the very last minute, when all their hopes were crushed. They were devastated, of course. They were grieving. They were angry. They were despairing. They couldn't understand it, and they had all these emotions at once. At one point, I honestly thought that the husband was going to punch me in the face, because in some strange way, I guess as a minister, I represented God to him, and perhaps he was blaming God for taking his baby. But one overwhelming memory I have of that long night was telling myself to just shut up. Don't give empty platitudes. Don't try and explain the unexplainable. Don't tell them it will get easier in time. Don't tell them, you can have another baby. And please, Stephen, don't tell them that it's all part of God's unknowable plan. Just shut up. And it was really difficult to say so little, because they had asked for the minister, and I was supposed to help and have some wisdom for them. Of course, I didn't sit in complete silence, but what I didn't say that evening, I'm sure, was probably far more important than anything I did say. Just to note, this dear couple did have a baby in time and were able to come to the church and have that child baptised, and that was a deeply moving time for me and for the congregation. So we give thanks to God for wisdom, the wisdom of the wisdom tradition in the Scriptures, which provides a path to follow that is able to reflect on itself honestly, and it's willing to grow when the conventional understanding is no longer true to our lived experience. May that be true to our approach to faith, ever alert to deep traditions, but always needing it to be relevant and alive to who we are today. Amen. Now I'm going to try and play hymn. Let's hope that it's going to work for us. Comfort, comfort.
Comfort, comfort all my people with the comfort of my word. Speak it tender to my people. All your sins are taken away. Though your tears be rivers running, though your tears be an ocean full, though you cry with the hurt of living, comfort, comfort. Every valley shall be lifted, every mountain shall be low, every rough place the comfort, 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 comfort all my people with the comfort of my word. Speak it tender to my people, all your sins are taken away.
Well, it seems that that's as much as the phone wants to play. I'm going to turn that off. I think that shouldn't start up again for us, let's hope. Let's turn to God in prayer, and towards the end there'll be some time of quiet for you to offer your own prayers. Eternal God, we have spoken of your goodness and listened to your word, but now we fall silent and listen to the cry of the world. We hear the cry of the lonely ones, those bereft of friendship, those who live alone, though wished they didn't, those bereaved who long for the voice they no longer hear, parents and children who have lost the ability to communicate, husbands and wives who have forgotten how to talk intimately. For these all we pray. We hear the cry of those in pain who go to sleep hungry, the long-term unemployed grown bitter at life, those particularly suffering through lockdowns, parents helpless though they see their children suffer, children caught in crumbling family relationships. For all these we pray. We hear too the cry of joy and gladness as new marriages are formed, eagerly awaited babies are welcomed into life, as long-held love is celebrated in anniversaries, as exams are passed, new jobs begun, and strangers welcomed. For all these we pray. We hear the cry of humble confidence from those who find their strength in long-held trust in God. For those who hear Christ's call to service. From those who hold to truth despite persecution. For all these we pray. We hear the inner cry within the human heart that guilt be met by your mercy, that anxiety receive your inner peace, that strength be given in testing times. For all these we pray. And you, O Lord, hear the quiet cry of our own heart, which we bring before you now. Thank you, O God, that you hear these cries. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. And we continue with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Save us from the time of trial, and deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Friends, may you go well this week. For those who will be at morning tea, I'll see you shortly, and a warm welcome to everyone to drop in online to our morning tea at 11 o'clock. But have a lovely week, and trust that you will stay safe and warm when it's cool, and that you will be well. God bless you. Go now with God, the fresh source of all goodness. Go now with Christ, our example and inspiration. Go now with the Spirit, who is our constant companion. Go with the blessing of the three-in-one God, Creator, Redeemer, and Guide. Amen.